Imagine waking up one day and there is no food to eat, no fire to keep you warm, and no shelter to keep you safe, and everyone you ever loved, dead. It's just you, the freezing cold, and no one coming to save you. That darkness is where this story begins. In 2019, archaeologists opened a 40,000-year-old cave and found something nobody expected: human remains. But no signs of attack, no predator marks, just a body. And one question that changed everything: did ancient humans ever end their own life? Because to even consider ending your own life, your brain has to do something extraordinary. It has to imagine the future, look at tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that, and decide it doesn't want any of them. That's not instinct. That's one of the most complex thoughts a brain can ever produce. Here's what we know. Modern humans have existed for roughly 300,000 years, but for the first 200,000 of those years, scientists believe this thought didn't exist, not because life wasn't hard, but because the brain wasn't complex enough yet to turn against itself. Ancient humans lived entirely in the present. No concept of next week, no sense of years passing. You can't decide you don't want a future if you can't picture one. But then something shifted. Around 70,000 years ago, scientists call it the cognitive revolution. Humans started making art, burying their dead with flowers, planning hunts weeks before they happened. For the first time in history, a mind was looking at itself, and a mind capable of that kind of depth is also capable of its darkest version. Because once you can imagine the future, you can also dread it. You can look at your life, the hunger, the cold, the grief, the loneliness, and ask a question no creature before you had ever asked. What if it's always going to be this bad? That thought, that specific thought, is where everything changes, and the evidence is darker than you'd expect. The oldest document ever found dealing with this was discovered in Egypt nearly 4,000 years ago. A man wrote what historians now call the world's first suicide note, found on a papyrus scroll, in which he argues with his own soul about whether life is worth continuing. His soul pushes back, begging him to keep living. Nobody knows what he chose. The ending of the scroll was never found. But what it tells us is that 4,000 years ago, someone was sitting alone with this exact feeling, and the only place he could put it was a piece of paper. And Egypt wasn't alone. By 600 BC, in the Greek colony of Massalia, modern-day Marseille in France, suicide had become so common the government built a system around it. Citizens could formally apply to the Senate for permission to end their life. If their reasons were judged valid, the government handed them hemlock, free of charge. They couldn't agree on whether it was cowardly or brave, but they all agreed. And here's what makes all of this haunting. Every one of those Egyptians and Greeks had something the body in that cave never had. A word for what they felt. People who had seen it before, someone who survived it and came back to say, "It passes." That ancient human had none of that. Completely alone with the heaviest thought a human brain had ever produced. We will never know how many didn't make it. But here's what history did record. Every ancestor who woke up with nothing left and kept going anyway, not because it got easier, but because something in the human body refuses to quit, even when the mind already has. The heart keeps beating, the lungs keep breathing, even when everything else has given up. 300,000 years of worst moments, and the chain never broke, not once. Every human who had to exist before you made it to the next morning, some with nothing left but the body's refusal to stop. But they made it, and you are the proof that it never stopped.